Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the final season of Stranger Things. At least I think it is, otherwise I'm super wrong and look like a fucking idiot. But it's season 4 of Stranger Things. It's divided into 2 parts, though that's not exactly accurate because this first part is significantly longer than the second part. The next one's just 2 episodes to close it off. And I've got to say, this is the best season of Stranger Things. It takes all the best qualities of the first 3 seasons and then does them better here. It has a little bit of everything. So there's a lot of characters in Stranger Things now, which can be kind of overwhelming for a lot of people. But the way that they break them off into their own pocketed adventures that still contributes to the overarching plot is masterfully done this season. For example, this isn't spoilers, I don't think, because I'm assuming if you're watching season 4, you've watched previous seasons. Hopper has his own storyline with Joyce and Murray, and that's all taking place completely separate from everything happening in Hawkins, as well as what's happening in California with Mike, Will, Eleven, and everything there. So there's basically 3 different plot lines that are all running adjacent to each other, and I'm assuming with the final 2 episodes all come together to close off the series in a grand way. And it works so well. It'll bounce from story to story. It almost feels like a video game where you're going through chapters throughout an episode. So you complete, chapter 1, which is X amount of levels in Hawkins. Then you go to chapter 2, which is X amount of levels in Russia at a secret facility that Hopper's being kept at. And it just really works well. And by doing this, they offer a lot. So in Hawkins, they're introducing a lot more horror elements. The big bad villain, Vecna, is killing people in Hawkins and mutilating them. So raising them in the air, snapping their bones all over the place, busting out their eyeballs. It's gory, it's violent, it's over the top. It's great. Like, this is the first season I would say actually tries to be at least a little bit scary and unnerving. It's very violent. The fucking villain treats human beings' bodies like my dogs treat chew toys, just absolutely eviscerates them. And, of course, in previous seasons, there's a lot of bloody moments and everything, but I'd say this is the first season where they actually try and unnerve you and deliver actual horror elements to its plot line, and I think they do it pretty well. Like, before this, I would say the horror was kind of Weenie Hut Jr. with Stranger Things. Like, no one's exactly going to be watching Stranger Things, like, peeking over their blanket at night unless they're, like, 8 years old or something, and it's, Nick Jr.'s horror, like, their first experience with anything, like, bloody. But this season, I would say there are elements where they do a pretty good job of building tension, and I really appreciate that. And then you get to Russia, Kamchatka, where Hopper is trying to break free, coming to terms with some things. He's getting tortured, literally getting tortured. He's busting his own ankles, coming up with different plans to escape. And in there's just good old-fashioned, red-blooded American action. Guns blazing, asses being slapped, teeth being punched out of each other's faces, real manly shit going on in Russia. So there's a lot of action on that side with pretty much no horror. And then you get to, unfortunately, the worst of the 3 plot lines, which is Will, Argyle, Jonathan, and Mike. They are the only plot line that seems completely isolated from the other ones in that they don't know anything going on. They don't know what's happening in Hawkins, really. They don't know what's happening in Russia, really. They're focused on one singular goal that I don't want to get into because of spoilers, but they just go on their own little adventure. And there's action. There's a fucking gunfight that breaks out and shit gets wacky, wild, and extreme, real nuts to butts, crazy shit. But that's just one small piece. The rest of it is them taking a long drive and not being in the loop of the grand scheme of the plot. They have the least amount of screen time. They're not playing a big role right now in the show. Of everything happening, you don't see a lot of that entire side. Which is unfortunate because I think Mike and Will would have a massive role to play in this, considering the first season, which kicked everything off, was very much focused on Mike and Will and their important role to play in the whole grand scheme of it. But here, they're kind of just sidelined and binged to basically just playing catch-up. It's like they're babysitters that are just late to everything. Which is unfortunate, but I'm hoping with the last 2 episodes, they'll actually get a little piece of the pizza instead of just getting the crust like they are right now. Because I think that they could offer a lot to the plot, they just haven't yet. But again, there's still 2 episodes left, so I'm assuming there will be a chance for them to come in and do something big. But since we're just looking at part 1, I would say that that's undoubtedly the weakest component, is that whole storyline. I still think the characters are great, and they're still fleshing them out, and I do think they're on an interesting adventure. We just don't see a lot of it yet. And when they're on screen, like just doing a long car ride, that shit'll just kind of put you to sleep. And if you want to sleep really well, you can sleep on a Helix mattress. Big thanks to Helix for sponsoring today's video. Helix makes premium quality mattresses that are conveniently shipped to your door and perfectly match your sleeping needs. They have a Helix sleep quiz which will match you to the perfect mattress based on your body type and sleep preferences. So if you want something more firm or something a little softer, it'll find that out in the sleep quiz and match you with the perfect mattress to accompany that. So I've had a Helix mattress for about 2 years now, and it's still the perfect fit for my body type. It's not super firm and it's not super soft. It's in that nice limbo in between. And it's still a comfort level I haven't seen in other mattresses since. It was a super quick and easy process to fill out the quiz and get that mattress, and I absolutely think it was 100% worth it. And it was also just super easy to get it all together since it was shipped right to the door. It comes rolled up in a box, you just unroll it, and then you're pretty much set to go. And there's even a 100-night sleep trial that lets you test the mattress to ensure that you love it. And if you don't, no problem. Helix mattresses include a 10-year warranty, and they offer financing options for flexible payment plans. So if you're interested in getting a premium mattress to match your body type, make sure to go to helixsleep.com/moist to get up to $200 off plus 2 free pillows. The visuals this season are far and away the best they've ever had. I think they've done an incredible job with everything here. It looks great. And since this is the final season, we're seeing a lot more of the Upside Down and the other dimension and the other monsters and stuff. And it's really looking good. Like, I just think everything they've shown, top notch. Every episode's like an hour and a half. And throughout the entire episode, they never really drop into like shitty visuals or bad CGI. For the most part, I can think of like 2 scenes off the top of my head where I was kind of like a little embarrassed to see a couple of things I saw on screen. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but there were some like Nintendo 64 graphic moments where I was like, ooh, that kind of jumped out and didn't look good. But for the most part, like when it's important and everything that's happening is big, they do a great job of delivering some high quality visuals. I also think the writing this season has been the best in the series. I think in a lot of the previous seasons, they banked a lot on like that old nostalgia and like cheesy, campy writing. And while that's still here sometimes, it's a lot less on the nose and everything seems a lot more grounded. The characters seem a lot more like there. Whereas instead of just like vomiting references at each other, they're just having conversations. Like conversations I could absolutely see happening between friends. That being said, it's not perfect or anything. There's definitely some like bad writing moments. But overall, I was a lot happier with this season than previous ones. And I want to say, this next complaint is something this show had no control over. Netflix releasing all of part 1 at the same time for the fucking binge model is so outdated and I'm so tired of it. I prefer weekly releases. I don't know why they haven't realized that weekly releases leads to a lot more longevity for a production. When it's a weekly release, everyone watches it at the same pace. Even if you're like a day or 2 late to watching it, you're still at the same spot as everyone else who may have watched it a bit sooner. But with binge model, there'll be people that'll finish it all in one sitting, and then you can never talk about it with anyone because of spoilers. And you can never talk about it yourself because you might be further than somebody else. You're not all on the same page and it makes it hard to talk about the show. And for me personally, watching shows, watching movies, the most fun part is to talk about it with people. But with the binge model, it makes it so fucking difficult to do that with anyone. It's just, I'm so tired of it. Weekly releases are a lot better. It drives up hype too. Great example is Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer was a decently popular anime all the way up until episode 19. Week 19 of Demon Slayer blew it up because that episode got everyone talking on Twitter like, holy shit, this was a visual spectacle, this was amazing, and then everyone tuned into Demon Slayer going forward and it became a massive phenomenon. And it all started because of episode 19. If they had released all 24 episodes of Demon Slayer Season 1, that would have flew under the radar. Maybe a couple popular clips, but it wouldn't have had the same staying power. Weekly releases are just better. You can talk about it with people because you're all on the same fucking page. You're all at the same pace. I'm tired of binge model. I'm tired of it. Not Stranger Things' fault. but god damn it, I just needed to vent. Another great example, JoJo's Part 6 was dumped 12 episodes all at once 8 months ago, and they still haven't released Part 2. They have fundamentally killed JoJo's Part 6 hype. It's embarrassing. The binge model is fucking cringe, and it makes me sad, and makes me real upset, and I just want it to go back to weekly releases, or do what Arcane did, 3 episodes a week. Bang. Then you get the best of both worlds. You get a ton of content, you're still getting weekly releases, so most people can stay on the same page and talk about it and engage with the content with their friends. Water cooler talk, I believe, is what it's called in the business. So, just wanted to get that out there. And also, just one more fucking example. When Stranger Things Season 3 came out, they dropped all of it at the same time, which means everyone binged it. So they only talked about it for like 2 or 3 days, and then everyone forgot about it. You never see anyone mention Season 3 of Stranger Things, even though it was a pretty good season. It just immediately died out and fell off because everyone binged it all at once, and it didn't last long enough. Now I'm done. Binge model, silly. Back to Season 4 Stranger Things. I don't think this was a perfect season by any means, but I do, like I said, I do think it is their best, and it was extremely entertaining. There's a couple plot holes that I won't talk about yet because, obviously, but I also think there's a really good chance for them to clean that up in the next 2 episodes to close it off. There's a couple things that don't really check out or make sense with the way that they've described them in Season 4 with what we've already established in previous seasons. So I'm just curious to see how that wraps up. They're not like glaringly awful plot holes that ruin the whole show, but there's just a couple of things in particular with Season 2 that didn't really match here in the latest season. I also think Season 4 has a bit of a problem with its runtime. I appreciate long episodes of shows, and like I said, every episode here is pretty fucking long. But there is just some actual bloat in some of these episodes. For example, like the basketball stuff. They spent quite a bit of time building that up, and so far it's amounted to nothing. Yes, the basketball team still exists, and yes, they still have a role to play, but it's super minor, and they spent quite a bit of time on that in the early episodes, and it padded out a lot of time that I don't think was necessary. There's definitely just some fluff they could have shaved off here and just kept the meat on the bone. They just added a little too much to it, and I don't think all of it has mattered. And let me just get a couple of nitpicks out of the way. The adults in this season are actual brain-dead fucking zombies. They make no good decisions at all. But not only that, of course, this show is mainly about the kids and their adventure and how they're the ones that are, like, really saving the world and all that. But I genuinely mean, outside of, like, Hopper, Joyce, Murray, that whole side, like, the adults in Hawkins, I swear to God, were hit with, like, a giant fucking stupid beam that turned all of them into actual idiots. None of them have ideas that make sense, or like plans or thoughts that make sense. Like, the basketball team convinces the town of adults of some stupid shit that they all take at face value, and that kind of dumb assness continued for the entire season, where all of the adults here were just stupid, like actually wildly incompetent. A bit of a nitpick, since they're not like a focal point of the show. When the adults are there, they're just there to be a hindrance. But in previous seasons, they'd be there as a hindrance, but still smart. Like, they're still making logical decisions and being rational. Here, it's like Halloween Kills, where it's evil dies tonight and everyone's lost their goddamn mind. It blew me away with how dumb the adults in Hawkins were. But anyway, plugging Season 4 of Stranger Things into the Moist Meter, I'm giving it a nice 90%. I actually would have gave it a little bit higher, but since there's no actual conclusion here, it's hard to do that. But I thought it'd still be fun to moist meter it in 2 parts. I think this first part has been an extraordinary setup, and I'm really hoping they slam dunk the ending, because they've got something great here, and I think they can close this series out beautifully. So I definitely think this is their strongest season. I'm hoping that this has some staying power where people will talk about it a little bit longer than they did Season 3, because I'd like to talk more about it, but I can't yet because of spoilers. It's just been a really good, entertaining season, and I'm super happy with the direction they took with this, and I'm excited to see how it wraps up. That's about it. See ya.